Hi guys, I'm Allie Wildy here. I am at the Schwarzkopf Professional headquarters in Culver City. Today we're going to be doing a little BLONDME 101. We've got some tried and trues that I want to make sure you know about, and we also have some really new and exciting things going on as well. So today we're going to cover everything in the BLONDME world. If you have any questions about anything, we're looking to get them answered today. If you're watching us live, feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions. If you're watching us later on a replay, thank you so much for tuning in. And if anything doesn't get answered in terms of questions, feel free to reach out. All we want to do is talk hair, so we're ready to talk to you about BLONDME at any time. So the biggest thing in the BLONDME world that everyone knows and loves are our lighteners. So I would say the most popular golden child in the lightener world is going to be our BLONDME 9+. So this is going to have all of the strength and all of the conditioning that you are used to with BLONDME. We've got a ton of oil content in the developer, so it's going to keep the hair really healthy as you're lifting, and it really packs a punch in terms of speed and power. So my biggest thing with the BLONDME 9+, if you haven't used it before, is I always say whatever developer you think you want to use, knock it down one. If you want to do 20, let's try 7. If you want to do 30, let's do 20. And if you want to do 40, maybe let's rethink this whole thing because that's a lot of power. So the BLONDME 9+ is going to have all of the same things that you have loved about it, but we do have a new technology built into the lightener. It's going to be an anti-metal technology. So what that means is we've got a new chelating agent in the lightener. It's going to go into what we're doing. It's going to completely surround any sort of metals on the hair and completely encapsulate them so that when we rinse the lightener, it's going to rinse right off. That is going to give us a really nice, clean lift. If you live in an area with a lot of hard water where maybe you're worried about something not playing nice with the lightener, you can absolutely go through and do a BLONDME detox treatment ahead of time. My favorite thing about the BLONDME detox is that we are mixing it with a conditioning mask. I feel like a lot of times you think detox and you think really rough and like kind of scrubbing stuff off the hair. This is going to get anything off of the hair that isn't going to do you any good, but it's also going to give you a conditioning treatment so you can fully run your fingers through the hair at the end. So a detox treatment never hurt anybody. So if you're worried about hard water or anything kind of like going funky with your lightener, I would go ahead and do that first. And you're just kind of prepping your canvas. But with that being said, the anti-metal technology in the 9+ is going to go a long way towards making sure that everybody plays nice together anyway. We do have something new with our lighteners. We are always working towards being more sustainable and not having unnecessary plastics and not having, a bunch of materials that we don't need. So we are actually changing the way that we do the scoops within the lightener. So if you're buying the lightener now when it's first coming out, there is a promotional scoop that you'll get, but this handy little scoop is going to be available all the time forever. You buy one, you can use it for all of the lighteners. You can keep it just kind of in that section. You can have as many as you want if you want to leave them in the tubs, but the whole idea of being sustainable is that we don't need a bunch of plastic. So once you buy a scoop, you can use it for everybody. So these are going to be available always. Just make sure that you grab a scoop before you get ready to put your hands in the lightener because we don't want you to be stranded. We do have the BLONDME clay lightener. So this is another tried and true. We know it, we love it, and all we changed was packaging to make sure that we were more sustainable and make sure that we had everything kind of working together to be safe and healthy and all of those things. But there is a new person at the party of the lightener world. So that is going to be our precision lightener. So this is the idea for this is that we're doing on scalp global lightening. It's going to give you up to 7 levels of lift and it's going to stay where you put it. Precision is the name of the game. So we're going to Make sure that once you mix it up, you put it on the hair, it stays exactly there. This is gonna be great for a global blonde retouch because you don't have to worry about any sort of banding. It just goes where you put it and leave it right there. So I feel like the lighteners have always been amazing and they're just kind of only getting better as we go along. If you have any specific questions about the lighteners, feel free to pop them in the chat. We've got people going through as well and answering questions. But so that's kind of where we are here with our lighteners. We have a model that I'm going to bring out in just a little bit when we talk toners. I did a hand painting on her with the clay lightener. So she's got a really nice, soft balayage look. And then we're going to play around with some toners as well. I wanted to bring her out as like a raw lift so that you could see, because one of my favorite things about the clay lightener is I like to tone every time I pre-lighten, but I don't feel like I have to do any corrective toning with the clay. I feel like it's very clean and it lifts very neutral. And then we're gonna have a finish where we can kind of play with some tones without having to do a ton of neutralizing and counteracting because we've got a nice, really clean lift. So when we have Emily come out, you'll get to see her raw lift that we did, and then we're gonna play around with some colors. So also in the lightener world, we have our bleach and tones. So these are ones, if you are like me and you're obsessively checking all of the different social medias for Schwarzkopf Professional in other countries, you've been waiting for this one. So this is going to be an additive that we can put into the lightener. We've got 3 options to choose from. There's a violet, there is a matte, which is going to be a green base, and there is an ash, which is going to be a blue base. So you can pick your intensity with these. So the general starting point is for every 60 grams of developer that you are using, you could do anywhere from 1 to 5 grams of one of the bleach and tones. So how do you decide between 1 gram and 5 grams? It's how intense do you want it? You want to go with the color family that you are trying to get to at the end. There is a more specific mixing ratio in the chart that is in the box with the color. So feel free to pull this out and really get down to the nitty-gritty of how exactly you can mix this. But as a general rule, if we're doing 60 grams of developer, you would want to do anywhere from 1 to 5 grams of the bleach and tone. That you're going to mix right into your lightener, and that's going to be even more control and even more neutralizing as you're lightening. So really, we're working on a lot of different ways to make sure that you have a really nice controlled lift. And once you get to the point where you are looking at toners or specific finishes, you're not having to do a lot of correction. Like a lot of that work is already done for you once you get there, and then you can really get kind of nitpicky with what you want your finish tone to be. Does that make sense? All right, so from there, as we kind of like move through our BLONDME world, we do have some new friends that have come to play with us. So BLONDME Lift and Blend is going to be, so this is perfect for a natural salt and pepper. The idea is we're going to lift up that pepper and we're going to tone that salt, and you're going to be left with a really dimensional finish. So we've had something similar like this in the portfolio before, and now we're just kind of like enhancing what we've been doing. So if you were a white blending fan, here we are with Lift and Blend. If you don't know white blending, here's Lift and Blend. So that is, like I said, we're going to lift up any of that pepper and the salt and pepper. We're going to tone down the salt, and you're going to be left with a super dimensional finish. The whole idea is, even if you hate natural gray and white hair, there's a ton of dimension in there. So we want to keep all that dimension, but we want to make it shades of blonde as opposed to shades of gray and silver. And then that way it's kind of like we've got baby lights on top of baby lights on top of baby lights, but it's in the color family that we want it to be. So these are going to be right in our handy dandy book. All right, so the way that the swatch book works is it's going to show you based on the percentage of white hair within the hair. So that's how these swatches work. We're going based off of a level 6 and then percentage of white within the hair. And then we've got 6 shades of lift and blend, and this is just showing you the difference between this starting point and this starting point. So it might be something where it looks like we have more shades than we do, but it's because they're going to be catered to whatever you're starting with. I think a lot of these shades are pretty self-explanatory, but I will call out my favorites are the brown mahogany. I feel like is a really soft kind of nude, almost like a teddy bear, like very controlled, soft warmth. And then biscuit, I would put into like a champagne color family. So I feel like it's got a little bit of warmth, it's got a good amount of cool, and it finishes really iridescent. So I'm a big fan of biscuit. I mix that into a lot of my colors in this world. So I think the other ones are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, ash, ice, sand, and then, so you've got options through there. And so this is going to be your option for someone with natural gray and white hair. We also have, I thought that was going to be a very seamless transition, but we have a high lift within the BLONDME world. So the idea behind this is BLONDME is its whole kind of all-encompassing family. You can use something in BLONDME, like BLONDME is going to have everything you need for blonding services. That includes a high lift color. So it is different from our high lift color and our regular permanent color, but it's got kind of like its own vibe. I think the difference that I'm thinking of when I'm talking BLONDME versus a more traditional permanent color is soft, iridescent, very sparkly, almost kind of sheer. So even though this is a high lift color, we're left with a very sparkly, feels sheer finish, even though we've done a lot of muscle work. So it just feels a little bit softer. This, again, we've got 6 tones going across, and then we're showing it starting from a level 6 and a level 7. So you're going to see more of the color come through as it's lighter because it's not doing as much to neutralize. The deeper you're starting from, the more those extra pigments are going towards neutralizing, and you're finishing a little more neutral. Does that make sense? So if I've got something like a steel blue at a level 7, I'm really going to see a lot of that steel blue come through as we get lighter because I didn't have a ton of things I needed blue for to counteract. Whereas if I'm starting at a level 6, a lot more of those cool tones and that blue is going to do some work for us as we lighten, and it's going to kind of do its work, and then we're going to finish much more neutral. So when you're using these, you want to think about what you're moving through as well as what you want your finish to be. Again, pretty self-explanatory in terms of color families. I just always like to shout out Biscuit because I think it really is the perfect blend of like a grounded, natural warmth, but with a really cool iridescent kind of kicker. So I feel like that can be a really hearty option for a tone. I feel like it's going to kind of cover all of your bases. So anything that we're talking about that feels familiar based on another color line that we have is because we want you to have options. So find what you love, fall in love with it, and go from there. I do really like the BLONDME high lift colors just because I do love that iridescence. And so I think that they're a really great option for what we've got going on there. So before we started, I did tell you that I had a beautiful model to bring out. So that is going to be Emily. So she's going to come right through here. Hello, Emily. So I went through and I did kind of a pretty basic paint on Emily. So the idea was we wanted to play around with like some bronzy, pinky, rose goldy colors, which is perfect because we've got new stuff. So I just really quickly want to go through and talk about how I go about the painting. Just because I definitely want us to talk about all of the different color options we have. But I feel like, we're all hairdressers, so we want to talk a little bit about what each other is doing. My idea, what I'm doing, a paint like this, and we just kind of like rinsed her, brushed her out, maybe got a little distracted, and now we're here. So we're half air dried. So that's kind of where we're starting. So this is fully raw lift on her natural hair, and she's rocking it. I went through and kind of separated the front from the back. And my idea with doing a paint like this is I'm going to work in triangle sections. I'm just going to spin you a little bit this way. So I'm going to do diagonal lines that create triangle sections going up the side of her head. Anytime you want extra movement and dimension and you want to not be sure where exactly things are coming from, throw it in a diagonal or put it on a triangle. Because then it's going to just keep things really seamless through the hair and you won't know exactly kind of where things are going and coming from. So if we do a diagonal line, we're left with a triangle section. So I'm going to take a look at this. I count my 3 sides of the triangle. If any of those 3 sides are her hairline, that becomes the top of my section. So if I'm looking at this, I've got side 1, side 2, and side 3. One of the sides is her hairline, so that becomes the top of my section. I'm going to paint it back this way. So then I paint this back. When I let it fall, it'll have just a little bit of a bevel in it. And I just let it rest because I use the clay lightener. So that is going to do a little bit of an encapsulation so that once I let it rest, it'll dry on the outside, it'll stay working on the inside, and it won't get messy as we go. Then I move up to my next section. And so that way, a straight line is going to give me my triangle. So once I create my triangle here, I count the sides of my triangle. 1, 2, 3. None of those sides are her hairline, so I'm going to paint this straight down where it lives. And so that's going to alternate as we go up her head. So anytime one of the sides of the triangle is her face, we're going to paint it back. Anytime there isn't, we're going to paint it down. The idea behind that is so that when everything is down, it doesn't feel like the light in her hair is coming from above. It feels like it's coming from her face. And so whether it gets pulled back this way or it hangs straight down, there is a glowiness and a lightness that feels really natural in here. And I mean, I do hair, I love hair, you do hair, you love hair. Her face is the star of the show. So we're kind of creating this frame where she can be really soft and pretty and glowy, and the hair is what's showing you that. So that is going to keep our light source as our client's face. The only thing that I want to double check to be clear about with this is this top piece here. I, a lot of times, end up saving this for last because I paint up both sides, I'll paint the back, and I do this whole piece going back this way. I just popped a foil on top of here so that I didn't have any transfer. I'm not really worried about a transfer with a clay lightener, but I don't play games with the part line. So I'm gonna put a foil there just as a little bit of insurance. And then this just kind of laid over top. The whole thing stayed open air. I just had that one piece of foil to protect her part line. And that is gonna keep a really cohesive, you can call it a money piece, you can make it more dramatic, but you can also keep it really nice and soft. But I want these two sides to feel like they go together. So I don't wanna do them totally separate. I like bringing them together. So that could be something if you're someone who remixes as you go, because maybe you take your time while you're painting, you might remix just for this piece to make sure that that stays nice and light since we're doing it last. But honestly, doing a full head paint on Emily today took probably 20 minutes.
It was like nothing.
Yeah, so we went through it pretty nice and quickly. I think keeping really basic standard shapes for your sections, you always know where you're going next. Sometimes we can get a little tied up in wanting to do things bigger and bigger, but like she's the star of the show. She's got nice, glowy, soft placement, and that's all we needed. So, and you're happy so far, right?
Yes.
Okay. As a side note, she's also happy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start mixing up our toner that we're gonna use for Emily today. So like I said, she brought in pictures of glowy, bronzy, pinky. I saw a lot of bronze in the pictures, but she's been saying the word pink a lot today. So what I did was with our toners that we have available, I did 2 parts strawberry. So I'm gonna give us a nice pink base. I did 2 parts of milk chocolate. So I'm gonna ground that so it doesn't feel like doesn't feel like pink hair. God forbid someone has pink hair, right? So I didn't want it to feel too pinky. I wanted it to be really grounded. So I mixed it with the milk chocolate. And then I did 1 part of our new toner, which is our peach sorbet. So this is so pigmented that it's actually one of our deep toners. So while I'm putting this on, I'm gonna ask you if you wouldn't mind holding this. And then we're gonna talk toner options. So the toners are split into 2 categories. We have toners and we have deep toners. I think that it should be pretty simple to figure out where we're at with those, but just to be safe, our deep toners are gonna have more pigment to them. They're gonna live at a little bit of a deeper level. All of the BLONDME toners are gonna tone on level. So they don't necessarily have a level of their own, but like a deep toner will bring you down. So that could be something that you use to create a shadow root. It could be something that you use to create a blend from, one kind of color story to another. But so you've got those options. As we're looking at this new book that we have, I love the way that we have decided to showcase our toners because they are very much a sheer finish in terms of a toner. So we've got a good amount of color direction in there. All of my color on my hair right now is BLONDME toners. So you can definitely make some moves with them, but they're very soft in terms of how much you are going to, bring down hair that you've lightened. So something like the strawberry toner, you can get a lot of pigment, you get a lot of pink, but it doesn't bring you down to a deeper level. Does that make sense? So that's why if we look at the book, we've got these sheer windows and those are gonna have the color directions on them. So if I'm looking at those windows and I'm looking at the bottom of the book where you have the different swatches at the different levels, you can kind of see how would a strawberry toner affect at this level, and at this level, and kind of go from there. I think that when we talk about colors not having a level of their own or being a really sheer finish, it can be really intimidating. So I love that we've got these transparent windows now to really show you what the difference is at the different levels and what that looks like. As I'm putting Emily's toner on, we are just kind of like doing all over. There's no reason I couldn't do this at the sink. The BLONDME toners are very movable and easy to work with. So I have put them in a bottle before and just given them a good shake to tone at the sink. But you also, like, they've got enough thickness to them that I can do a bowl and a brush as well. So it really depends on what you're doing. A lot of times if I'm doing an all over toner, I will do it at the sink, maybe do a quick little towel dry so that I can make sure my toner can fully get onto that hair. If I'm doing something that's kind of like a melt, I would do at the chair. So I would kind of like bring it to the chair so that I can really work those colors in with my hands and get a lot of that blend done. So I'm just going through, I'm gonna get it on her base all over. Her base isn't lightened, so it's just a way to like keep me moving in an organized and neat way. Because these are a sheer finish, I don't have to worry about if I get this toner on hair that hasn't been lightened, it won't affect it. So we can just kind of like move on through, and that way I can make sure that I have the toner on all of the lightened hair. So we're just gonna keep moving. You can already see these colors start to kind of pop through in what I've painted. That strawberry and that peach sorbet are not, they didn't come to play games. I will say a lot of times, especially the cooler toned toners where they have a lot of neutralization to them, there can be a moment where they start to look a little more powerful than you would think when they're on the hair. I will say, let it live. Because a lot of times what you're seeing is some pigment kind of sitting on top of the hair. And then if you rinse it off too early, you're going to risk, messing with your longevity and all of that stuff. So if you are using the toners as directed, you're letting them develop for, a full 20 minutes. That is going to give you up to 20 shampoos of color life. So if we're rinsing it off early, we start to jeopardize that and we start to lose some of our longevity. So try to have some faith, let her live, and then kind of go from there. Beautiful. And like I said, things like the color is really easy to move. So we're already moving our way through this head of hair. I really like when I'm doing like a full covering everything like this, I will go down my section with like a root retouch. And that is just kind of keep me organized. And then as I go top to bottom, and then I go bottom to top. So I'm going to get this all done as a root retouch. And then I have to flip it over anyway, So as I'm flipping it over on my way back up, I'm grabbing, maybe 2 sections at a time and just painting that through. How are you doing, Emily?
I'm good.
Good. Are you excited?
Yes.
So I'm going to get Emily's toner on while we're here, and then we're going to bring her out for our next live, which is going to be becoming an authority in blonde, and we'll see her totally finished. So I wanted us to be able to see what the toner looks like as it's sitting on the hair, because like I said, a lot of times you do see that pigment kind of sitting on top, but it's obviously the finish is what matters. So I want to make sure that we bring Emily back and she gets to show herself off with her new fresh hair. So she's going to be impossible to deal with once it's done. But so as we're going through this, I'm just going to touch on a few more of our toner colors. If you wouldn't mind opening up that book again. So going back to the deep toners, they are going to run through a bunch of options in terms of pigment. You can see things like the deep chestnut and the granite are going to be very, very cool. And so those are going to give you like almost a slate gray, like very cool finish. And then we can move over to things like milk chocolate and nougat, which are going to be a little more on the neutral side of things. A lot of the deep toners are on the cooler side of things. The idea being you've probably pre-lightened and gotten some exposed warmth. So you're probably looking to counteract that. So then the one that kind of goes against all of those things is the new peach sorbet. So peach sorbet has got some oomph to her. So I actually have some peach sorbet in my hair. My lighter color is 4 parts clear to 1 part peach sorbet. So we do have a clear option in the toner family. That is going to be something that you can use to dilute and like customize your shades. So I wanted to do just kind of a whisper of peach. I know that it's got a lot of oomph to it, and I wanted my strawberry pink to be the star of the show. So I went through and did, 4 parts clear to 1 part peach sorbet. And then I've got my strawberry pink as my main color. So it ended up with something really soft. I will say I was starting from very light. So I got a very controlled peach. So there's a lot of coolness to kind of make sure that the peach is a really controlled color to come through. So I am seeing a lot of that coolness in my own hair. So it's a very soft, controlled peach. But if you're going to use it on its own, just know it's technically a deep toner. It really does have a lot of pigment on there. But it's really fun to get to dilute and customize and mix in with other things. So just to go over Emily's color formula again, we did 2 parts of our strawberry toner and 2 parts of our milk chocolate toner. So we end up with a really controlled, grounded strawberry color. And then, so we've got 2 parts and 2 parts, and then we did 1 part of our new peach sorbet. So now we're gonna have a combination of a nice, cool peach mixed with a pink, and then with a milk chocolate to kind of keep it all in line. So that's how we'll get like our nice kind of bronzy finish. I've got not a ton of lightness back here. The other thing I wanted to do was really make sure that I was focusing her lightness around her face. So I'm just gonna kind of paint where we need to be back here. But I feel like the BLONDME toners don't get talked about enough. I think that, it's one of those things, if you worked with a different color line before, the numbering system can be so scary and intimidating to come into. But then once you've got the numbering system, to see colors that don't use the numbering system is now terrifying, because you're used to knowing exactly everything that's in the hair color. So I totally get that. I think that some of them, like Biscuit is probably the biggest one in Europe and Germany, where we're creating these colors and naming them. A biscuit is a cookie, like a shortbread cookie. So what we think of as a biscuit maybe isn't the right term to be using for that color. But if you take a look at the swatch ring, if you look at that transparent window there, you can start to kind of put the pieces together to see like, oh, this is something really soft and kind of buttery, and it's going to give me like a really beautiful control. So I think, when in doubt, give it a shot. I think that, Schwarzkopf Professional as a company really puts a lot of work into the swatches and making sure that what you see is what you get with the colors. So if you're working with something and you feel like you don't understand kind of based on the name, I would invite you to check out the swatches and kind of use that as your starting point, because there's a lot of people who put those swatches together for you, and they also think that a biscuit is a biscuit and a cookie is a cookie, but they made it work for you. And I just think that not getting stuck in these boxes of getting nervous because we don't know every single thing in front of us, like put a little faith in yourself and in the swatches that you have in front of you, so that you can really kind of expand what you're doing. And as we're saying that, I mix the perfect amount of toner, and that always means it's going to be a good day. You can tell that I work for myself at home because I don't waste any color. I was just saying, whenever I'm here, I go to open something new. I'm like, wait, is there already an open bottle or an open box? And everyone's like, what are you doing? But I don't throw away any extras ever. You gotta get those measurements down. All right, so like I said, the toners, we say anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And so I'm going to tell you what I tell my clients when they start to get antsy. It's not true, but it works. So I basically will tell my clients, every minute that I can get you to sit still with this on your hair is a shampoo that it will last through. It's not an exact science, but if we think about 20 minutes is up to 20 shampoos, we can kind of fudge the math on that a little bit and make it make sense. So if she's starting to get stressed and anxious, I'm going to give her a piece of gum and a soda, and she's going to sit tight, right? All right, perfect. So thank you. So we've got toner on everywhere here. So she's going to hang out for a couple minutes. Like I said, we're going to do another live next week, and you'll be able to see Emily all done. But until then, I'm going to let you venture off. Thank you. And then, all right, so from there, I want to touch on our BLONDME base breakers. So they've been around for a minute, but not that long. So I feel like a lot of people haven't gotten to really know and love them yet. We've got 3 color options. There's soft cool, cool, and extra cool. You're going to mix these with the BLONDME 20 volume developer, and you are going to soften the base of any highlight that you did. So this is going to be a great option if you're doing a highlight all over, you want to soften that in between, but you don't want to do a full other color. These will do it. We say mix it with 7 or 20, but just mix it with 20. That's going to really lift up just a little bit your in-between color, like their natural color, and just to keep everything really nice and soft. So even if you were to go through and like slice, 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 it'll soften everything so it feels really gentle. A lot of people are still looking for lived-in color, but we're coming up with like smarter ways on our end to do it. So to have these built-in base breakers, you're gonna see a little bit of warmth because we're bumping up, but we've got different levels of control for that warmth as well. So definitely take a look at what you're doing and kind of work accordingly. And so that's going to be a great option if you're doing an all over highlight, just to keep it really nice and soft. So just to touch on again, my hair color, because I've been getting a lot of questions about it. I did the BLONDME Strawberry Toner, and I did in another bowl 4 parts clear toner to 1 part of the peach sorbet. So I wanted really soft, really gentle. And then I went through and did like a base of the clear with peach sorbet and then painted over that with the strawberry. So at my base, those are mixed. And then I'm just alternating triangles of the different colors. So I wanted a lot of dimension, but I didn't want you to be able to tell where it was coming from. So like I said, when you want it to move, but you don't want to be able to tell where everything is, throw it in a triangle or put it on a diagonal. So if you're someone who's doing like pretty standard in terms of your placement and doing things horizontal and vertical, that's great. But if you want to soften it a little bit, throw it on a diagonal and then everything will be much more diffused. So I'm trying to think if we have any questions that I might have missed, but I think I covered everything perfectly.
We did have a question. Could you just recap the different lighteners and how many levels of lift you get?
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to recap the lighteners and how many levels of lift you get with each one. So I'm going to start with the Mac Daddy. So the BLONDME 9 Plus, you are going to get up to 9 levels of lift. This is a powder lightener. This is going to have the most power. It's going to move the fastest. You're really going to enjoy the oil content and the developers here, and that's going to help keep the hair really healthy, even though we are zipping our way up the lightness strand. It does have the new anti-metal technology, so it's going to fully encapsulate any sort of metals on the hair. Hard water is going to translate into metals on the hair. And so it's going to surround them so that when we rinse the hair, they're going to rinse right off and they won't have time to throw us off at all. So this is definitely going to be our most powerful lightener that we've got in our family. We also have our clay lightener. So this is going to be up to 7 levels of lift. This one you're going to want to do open air. So a lot of times I'll go in with a higher developer for this one, like a 30 or a 40. On Emily, our model today, I did BLONDME clay with 2 parts of the 20 volume developer. So I wanted it to be really soft. So I knew I was working with virgin hair, so it was going to move, but I wanted it to be a really soft transition. So I went in with 20, but a lot of times we can do 30 or 40 here because it's going to be open air. It's going to sit out. And then, like I said, it's going to create that cast where kind of the outside will become more of a shell. And then on the inside, we'll still have some comings and goings. And then we have our new precision lightener. So this one is going to be up to 7 levels of lift. It is going to, the idea with this one is it's going to stay where you put it. It's going to make your double process root retouches so much easier because you can mix it up. You can get up to 7 levels of lift and it's going to stay exactly where you put it. So we're not going to have any sort of transfer problems. It'll eliminate a lot of banding because once you pop it on there, that's where it is, and you're getting up to 7 levels of lift. So that's kind of where we're at with the family. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. This has been BLONDME 101. Like I said, we're going to do another live next week, which is going to be becoming an authority in blonde. We're going to go a little more in depth into some things. We're going to play with some more technique-based stuff. and just make sure that we're totally clear on everything that we've got here so that you guys are ready to be doing all of your perfect blondes in your salon. So I am Allie Wildy, and thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.